I always sat at the same table, far left corner by the frosted glass window. No one ever joined me there, until he did. "Excuse me," came a voice one October afternoon. "Do you mind if I sit here? Everything else is full." I looked up, startled. He was tall, with dark hair and kind eyes, arms full of medical textbooks. "No, go ahead," I said, sliding my books to the side. He nodded and sat down, flipping open a thick volume on human anatomy. I tried not to watch him, but something about the way he quietly read, the way his fingers moved across the page with purpose, it felt safe. After 30 minutes he glanced up. "I'm Leo, by the way." "Marley," I replied. He looked at my stack of books. "Early childhood education?" I nodded. "Planning to teach." I hesitated. "Maybe kids are easier than adults. They don't pretend to care. They either do, or they don't." He smiled like he understood. "I'm studying to be a surgeon, not because I like blood," he added, laughing, "but because I like fixing what's broken." Something about that sentence stayed with me for weeks. After that, we met at the same table, same time. We didn't talk much, just shared space, notes, the occasional snack. But the silence between us felt different, like company, not loneliness. One day, while I was scribbling notes, he said softly, "You have beautiful hands." I blinked, confused. "Your hands?" he repeated. "They're steady, precise, like a healer's." I laughed awkwardly. "I'm not a healer." "You are," he said without looking up. "You just don't know it yet." By November, we'd walk through the park together, the leaves crunching under our shoes, the wind biting at our cheeks. It was the first time I'd let anyone walk that close to me. On a bench near the water, he asked, "What's your family like?" I tensed. "I live with my dad and his wife. They're good people." "And your mom?" "She died when I was 7. I'm sorry." "It's okay." I barely remember her face, but I remember her voice. I paused, then added, "I lived in a foster home for a while, before my dad found me." He didn't rush to fill the silence, didn't ask for more, just sat with it. "I don't talk about this stuff," I admitted. "You don't have to," he said, "but when you're ready, I'll listen." I didn't know how much I needed that. Until then, someone who didn't demand pieces of me, someone who waited. Winter passed like a whispered prayer. Leo walked me home from the library every night. He bought me tea from the vending machine, helped me with projects, remembered when I had tests. We still didn't call it love, but it was quiet. Growing. Real. One night in February, while snow fell outside and the world felt hushed, I told him my mom died alone. And for years, I thought she'd come back. Every time I smelled her perfume on a stranger, every time I passed a bakery, he didn't interrupt. He just wrapped his arms around me, not possessively, not hungrily, just there, steady. "Thank you," I whispered. "For what?" "For not saying stupid things, like everything happens for a reason." "Time doesn't heal everything," he murmured. "Sometimes it just teaches us how to live with the ache." That sentence didn't just land, it rooted. Something deep in me softened, like a tightly wound thread finally loosening after years of tension. In that silence, I wasn't alone anymore. I felt seen in a way I hadn't in years. There were no expectations in his embrace, no need to prove or explain, just breath, warmth, and quiet understanding. That was the moment I knew he saw me. Not the good grades, not the obedient daughter. Me. The messy, grieving, hopeful girl who still wanted to believe in gentleness. And in that fragile hope, something new bloomed. Not just the possibility of love, but the belief that maybe I hadn't been broken beyond repair, and I was beginning to believe I could be someone worth loving. He was everything. Leo wasn't confident, established, sharp in the way that impressed professors and made other students lean in. His name was Jonathan Hale, and he was one of the youngest adjunct lecturers in the School of Education. He noticed me after a presentation, complimented my poise, my clarity, my presence. He said I had potential, that I just needed someone to bring it out. At first, it was flattering. His attention felt like validation, like finally, someone who knew the world saw me and thought I belonged in it. He took me to expensive restaurants, introduced me to his colleagues, called me exceptional. Rare. When Leo wrote to me about the opportunity in Europe, 3 years, prestigious clinics, once-in-a-lifetime experience, I froze. He asked me to come with him, to marry him. "I want a life with you," he said. "We can build it together." But I was afraid of leaving everything behind, afraid of choosing the unknown. "I need time," I told him. He gave me space, weeks, then months, and in that space, Jonathan filled the silence. He made me feel important. Not soft, not damaged. Important. The wedding was exactly what people imagined success looked like. Crystal chandeliers, white roses, imported champagne. Guests in tailored suits murmuring how lucky Jonathan was. Even Eliza seemed overwhelmed by it all. In the dressing room before the ceremony, she touched my veil and asked gently, "Are you happy?" I smiled at her through the mirror. "Jonathan is a good man." "I didn't ask about Jonathan," she said softly. "I asked about you." I didn't know how to answer that. During our honeymoon, Jonathan was generous, thoughtful, polished. He talked about buying a condo in a trendy district, about saving for investment properties, about building a future that made sense. Then one night, I asked, half joking, what he'd think if we had a baby sooner than planned. He set down his wine glass. "Why rush into chaos when we're finally on track?" "Chaos?" I laughed. "That's what you'd call a baby?" He reached across the table, covered my hand with his, smiled tightly. "Marley, I'm just being practical. I love you, but there's a right time for everything." That was the first time I felt something cold coil around my heart. It wasn't just what he said, it was how. Calm, calculated. Like love could be scheduled, like joy needed approval. My fingers twitched beneath his, wanting to pull away but too trained in peacekeeping to move. Something inside me recoiled, quietly, like a warning whispered from the back of my mind. Still I nodded. I agreed. Because that's what good wives do. I started teaching at a local elementary school. Jonathan advanced in his department. Every photo of us looked perfect. His arm around my waist, my smile practiced to the point of muscle memory. But there were signs. Little corrections, subtle jabs. "You're wearing that to the dinner party? Don't speak too much about your upbringing. It makes people uncomfortable. I know you mean well, but let me handle the serious conversations." I told myself he was just trying to help, to protect our image, that it was normal to feel out of place next to a man like him. Then came the first pregnancy. Unexpected, delicate. I was terrified and thrilled all at once. I bought a tiny yellow onesie and hid it in my drawer, imagining the day I'd show him. But when I finally told him, smiling, nervous, hopeful, his face didn't soften. "What the hell were you thinking?" he snapped. I wasn't trying. We talked about this. You're not ready. This wasn't the plan." Tears welled in my eyes. "But it's our baby. It's your mistake." The words landed like stones. Not fear, not confusion, just a crushing wave of shame, of shrinking. I felt myself disappear inch by inch beneath the weight of his disapproval. In that moment, I stopped being a wife and became a problem to manage. I should have walked away then, should have packed my bag and run. But instead I whispered, "I'm sorry." And he said, "It's too late for sorry. You'll have it. But next time, ask first. Ask for permission." That was the night I realized the man I married didn't love me. He loved control. And I had just handed him everything he needed to tighten the grip. Her name was Ivy. She arrived in early spring, wrapped in the softest pink blanket the hospital provided. She had my eyes and a softness in her that made my heart ache. For the first time in years, I felt something close to peace. Something like joy. I thought maybe, just maybe, Jonathan would soften too. He didn't. He showed up late, peeked at her through the nursery window, hands in his pockets like a man surveying an investment. "She looks fine," he said, then kissed my forehead and left. At home, he became meticulous. Every hour of sleep, every feeding, every cry was a disruption, a fault, a failure, on my part. "Why is she crying again?" he'd snap. "She's a baby, Jonathan. Other mothers get their kids to sleep. Why can't you?" I started memorizing the creaks in the hallway so I could rock her without him hearing. I sang lullabies. I barely remembered from my own childhood, tears rolling down my cheeks as I whispered, "It's okay. Mama's here." But I wasn't sure how much longer I could say that and mean it. Jonathan didn't hit me then, not yet, but the words bruised just the same. "You've let yourself go. You used to care about how you looked. Don't become one of those women who blames the baby for being lazy." I stopped looking in mirrors, stopped wearing makeup. I didn't recognize myself anymore. There was a time I used to care about how I showed up in the world, not out of vanity, but because it made me feel alive, present, human. But now, each glance in the mirror was a reminder of how invisible I had become. A body that nurtured, carried, soothed, but never enough. Not for him. And yet, when he walked in the door, I still smiled. Still tried to greet him with warmth, as if love could be coaxed back with enough effort. When I got pregnant with Jack a year later, I didn't tell him for 3 weeks. I was scared. Not of his fists, not yet, but of the look. That expression of disgust barely hidden behind his calculated tone. "Again?" he said when I finally told him. "Are you incapable of tracking your own body?" "He's your son too," I whispered. "No son of mine should be born into a mess." I started apologizing for everything, for being tired, for needing groceries, for the kids crying. "Sorry," I'd say automatically, and he'd reply, "Don't say sorry, say thank you, that I'm still here." It wasn't long before his words weren't enough. The first shove came when I spilled water on the kitchen floor. I slipped, caught myself. He stormed in, saw the mess, and grabbed my arm hard enough to leave bruises. "Clean it up, you're not a child," he snapped. "I'm sorry," I said. He turned back and pushed me against the counter. My elbow thudded hard into the edge. "That's the problem. You're always sorry. Be better." The pain wasn't what stunned me, it was how natural it felt. How quickly my brain rationalized it, minimized it, filed it away under "not that bad." I'd become fluent in denial, fluent in survival. Instead, I didn't leave. I told myself it was stress, that things would get better when Ava was born, our third. I didn't cry in the delivery room. I was too numb, too used to hiding my emotions like contraband. Jonathan didn't come. Said he had a meeting. The nurse asked, "Is Dad on his way?" "He's busy," I said. She gave me a look that said more than words ever could. At home, life became a war zone. Jonathan refused to help with the kids. "You wanted them," he said. "You raised them." Ivy, my oldest, started flinching when the front door opened. Jack hid under the table when Jonathan's footsteps echoed in the hallway. Ava, too young to understand, would just cry. And me? I became a ghost, a shell, moving through the house like furniture. I drifted from room to room, doing everything and feeling nothing. Every task, feeding, cleaning, soothing, felt like an echo of a life that used to be mine. Until one night, Ivy crawled into my bed, wrapped her little arms around my waist, and whispered, "Mommy, I don't like when Daddy's home." That was the moment something cracked. Not like before. This time, it didn't break me. It woke me up, because if my daughter was learning to be afraid, that meant she was learning to be me. It started with a lie. A simple one. I told Jonathan I was taking the kids to the park, but instead, I drove to my stepmother's house. Eliza had always told me I could come to her with anything, but when you live in fear long enough, even kindness starts to feel dangerous. We sat on the porch while the kids played in the yard. The air smelled like roses and summer rain. She poured me tea, smiled like she always did. "You look tired, sweetheart," she said gently. I stared into the steam and said, "Eliza, can I ask you something?" "Of course." "Do you think it's possible for two people to just not be right for each other?" Her eyes flicked to mine, sharper than I expected. "Is something wrong between you and Jonathan?" I hesitated. My lips moved around everything but the truth. "He's just strict. He likes things a certain way. I don't always get it right." She set her teacup down. "Marley, is he hurting you?" "No," I said too quickly. "Not like that. I mean, he didn't want kids so soon. He thinks I've let myself go, that I'd disappoint him." She didn't blink. "Sweetheart, no one needs permission to become a mother. That's not a failure. That's a miracle." I looked at her then, really looked, and for the first time in years, someone looked back and didn't see a woman failing at her life. She saw a mother drowning, but it was too late. Jonathan found out I had visited them. He came home early. His face, a tight mask of fury. "Why were you at your father's?" he asked. "The kids wanted to see them." "Don't lie to me," he said. "You went there to talk about me, didn't you?" "No, I swear, He struck me. Open hand, across the face. I stumbled back, hit the wall, tasted blood. From down the hallway, I heard Ava cry. Then Jack's small voice, asking if Mommy was okay. Jonathan turned toward the sound, eyes blazing. "Look what you've done. You scared them." That night, after the kids fell asleep, I sat in the bathroom, staring at myself in the mirror. My lip was split, my cheek already swelling. My own face looked like a stranger's, and that stranger whispered, "This isn't love. This isn't life." I remembered the number Eliza had once written on the back of a grocery receipt, a women's shelter. I had hidden it inside an old cookbook. My hands shook as I pulled it out, dialed. The woman on the other end had a calm voice. "This is the Women's Help Center. Are you safe right now?" "No," I whispered. "My husband, he hurts me, and the kids see it." "We can help," she said. "Do you have somewhere to go?" "No. Just my dad's house, but he'll find us." "We'll help you stay hidden," she promised. "How many children?" "3, all under 7. We'll move quickly. Come in the morning." I hung up, cried silently on the bathroom floor. Not out of fear, out of relief. But I wasn't fast enough. Jonathan came home early from the gym. "Who were you talking to?" he asked from the hallway. "A friend," I said too fast. "What friend?" "Tessa, from college." "You haven't spoken to Tessa in 2 years." He snatched my phone, redialed the last number. A voice answered, calm and steady. "Women's Help Center. How can we?" He ended the call and looked at me like I was something he'd found crawling in his shoe. "So that's it," he hissed. "You're planning to run." I backed toward the door. "Jonathan, please." He blocked the exit, eyes wild, voice low. "You think you'll take my kids? We think I'll just let you go?" He raised his fist, and then the doorbell rang. The doorbell rang again, a long, steady chime that cut through the silence like a flare in the dark. Jonathan froze, fist still raised midair. "Who the hell is that?" he muttered. The clock read 9:30 p.m. Too late for deliveries, too early for emergencies. "I don't know," I whispered. My voice trembled so badly it barely sounded like mine. He grabbed my arm, shoved me toward the entryway. "Open it, and if you say one wrong word." He didn't finish with threat. He didn't have to. My hands shook as I reached for the door. My pulse was thudding so loud it blurred the world around me. I looked through the peephole. At first, I thought I was hallucinating. But the voice came, soft and steady, just like I remembered. "Marley, it's me. Please open the door." "Leo." He stood there in a dark coat, older, sharper around the edges, but those eyes, still gentle, still sure. Jonathan's voice hissed from behind me. "Who is it?" "A friend from college." Jonathan leaned closer. "Open it, and smile." I turned the lock with shaking fingers. The door creaked open, and Leo stepped forward into the light. He took one look at my face, split lip, swelling cheek, eyes rimmed in red, and he didn't ask a single question. "Hey, Marley," he said softly. My voice cracked. "Hi." Jonathan appeared beside me. "And who exactly are you?" he demanded, puffing up his chest. "Leo West," he replied calmly. "Old friend." "Well, Marley's a married woman. Now you should probably leave." Leo didn't flinch. He glanced at me again, then let his eyes settle on Jonathan with a quiet firmness that made the room feel heavier. "If she asks me to go, I'll go. Otherwise, I'm staying right here." Jonathan laughed. "You don't get to make decisions in my house." "Then let's not talk in your house." He took a step inside, not aggressive, just solid. Jonathan stepped back, barely, but enough for me to notice. In the hallway, Ava had started crying. Jack's voice followed, soft and scared. Ivy was trying to hush them. "I need to check on the kids," I said, moving toward their room. Jonathan caught my wrist. "They can wait." "No," Leo said, voice like steel. "They can't." Jonathan turned on him. "What business is this of yours?" Leo didn't answer right away. He stepped closer, just one pace, and said, "When it comes to Marley and her children, it's all my business." Jonathan tried to hold his ground, but something shifted. He saw it too. This wasn't the boy I'd once studied with in libraries. This was a man who'd spent years learning how to protect, how to repair. "Get out," Jonathan growled. "Not without her," Leo said. Jonathan lunged, swinging his arm. But Leo caught it, twisted, shoved him against the wall with a precision that spoke of training, not rage. Jonathan cursed, struggling. "You'll regret this." "I doubt it," Leo said calmly. A few days earlier, Mrs. Duncan had stopped me in the hallway. She returned a package that had been delivered to her door by mistake. Her eyes lingered on the faint bruises on my arm. "You okay, hun?" she asked softly. I smiled too quickly. "Just tired." She didn't press, but that night, I heard her linger outside our door longer than usual. Then a voice came from behind. "I'd step carefully if I were you." It was Mrs. Duncan, our neighbor from downstairs. She held up a phone, screen still lit. "I've been recording every scream, every crash, every night. I called the shelter myself, and if this man hadn't shown up tonight, I would have walked through that door." Jonathan's face drained of color. Leo let him go, then turned to me. Get your things. Get the kids. You're not spending one more night here. I didn't move at first. I was still frozen, still stuck in the script of survival. But then I looked at my children. 3 wide-eyed little souls huddled in the doorway, and I finally felt it. This wasn't fear anymore. This was freedom knocking. Later that night, after the kids were finally asleep at the shelter, I asked Leo, "How did you know to come?" He looked at me for a moment. "Eliza called me. She was worried after you stopped answering. She said you might need someone to stand with you." I blinked. "You came all this way just because of that?" He nodded. "No," he said softly. "I came because I should have never let you go in the first place. And this time, I was ready to open the door." The drive to the shelter felt like the longest journey of my life, though it took only 20 minutes. Leo drove with one hand on the wheel, the other gripping mine. He didn't speak much, just gave me the silence I needed. The kind that didn't feel empty, but safe. Every bump on the road seemed to echo the choices I'd made. Every turn brought a memory, some painful, some blurred by time. But his hand, warm and steady in mine, was the only thing that tethered me to the present. For the first time in years, I wasn't fleeing. I was moving toward something. The kids were curled up in the back seat, Ivy whispering to Jack, Ava tucked in her arms. None of them cried. They just clung to each other, like castaways in a storm. Watching them like that, so small, so brave, broke something inside me and healed it all at once. They deserved better than fear. And I was finally taking the first step to give it to them. When we pulled up to the shelter, a woman was already waiting at the door. She introduced herself as Maggie. Her smile was warm, but her eyes, sharper than they first appeared. She didn't pity me, she respected me. Inside, the space was quiet, clean. Soft with blankets and soft-spoken volunteers. I filled out paperwork with trembling hands while Maggie brought juice boxes to the kids. "You're safe now," she said gently. "No one knows you're here, and no one will, unless you tell them." That night, in a small room with bunk beds and dim lights, I sat on the edge of the mattress and stared out the window. Leo knocked once, then peeked in. "You okay?" I nodded. "I think so." He hesitated, then asked, "Why didn't you call me all these years?" I looked at him, this man who had been my safe place once, and somehow still was. "Because I didn't think I deserved help. Not after I chose wrong. Not after I stayed so long." He stepped inside. "You didn't choose wrong. He fooled you. And staying, that wasn't weakness, that was survival." I swallowed hard, the shame I'd been carrying for years pressing against my ribs. I had convinced myself that enduring was noble, that silence was strength, but hearing him say those words loosened something I didn't know I was still holding. Tears welled in my eyes. I let it happen. I let the kids see it. He knelt in front of me. "And now they'll see this. They'll see their mom choosing better, choosing freedom." I broke then, but not like before. Not into pieces. I broke open. The first few weeks were chaos wrapped in comfort. Paperwork, legal calls, panic attacks at the sound of a closing door. The shelter's attorney helped me file for a protective order. Custody hearings would take months. Leo stayed nearby, not hovering, just present. It wasn't instant freedom, it was exhaustion, flashbacks, late-night doubts. But one morning, I realized I had slept. Not just closed my eyes, but truly slept. And I woke up without fear. Eva started sleeping through the night. Jack made a friend. Ivy asked Maggie if she could help serve snacks to the younger kids. I began to feel like a mother again. Not just a shield, but a source of warmth. Jonathan tried to reach out once. He sent an email through a mutual contact. Said he regretted how things ended. Said he missed the kids. I didn't reply. I sent it to the shelter's legal advisor. By the end of the month, I had filed for divorce. Full custody. No visitation without supervision. My father visited. He cried when he saw me. Apologized for not noticing sooner. Eliza held my hand and said, "You didn't fail, Marley. You endured, and now, you rise." One afternoon, Leo showed up with a small box. "It's not a ring," he said quickly. "Don't worry." I laughed. For the first time in weeks. Inside the box was a silver pendant, a small tree, roots curled beneath the surface. "It's the tree of life," he said, "for strength, for growth, for the life you're building now." I touched the pendant, tears stinging. "Thank you," he smiled. There's a position open at a private preschool near the hospital. They're looking for someone who knows how to reach kids who've been through things, someone who understands. You think I'm that person? I asked quietly. I know you are. And for the first time in years, I believed it too. We moved into a small rental house near the school. The kids picked out paint colors for their bedrooms. We planted flowers in the yard. On Saturdays, we made pancakes in our pajamas. On Sundays, we visited the library again. Leo never asked for anything, but slowly, we found our way back. Not to who we were, but to who we had become. Not broken people, but rebuilt ones, together. And when Ivy brought me a drawing one morning, of our little house, a tall man, a smiling mom, and 3 happy kids with hearts over their heads, I knew this was home. I wrote the letter late one night, long after the kids had gone to bed and the house had gone still. Rain was tapping gently against the windows, and the air smelled like lavender from the diffuser Leo bought me last Christmas. He was asleep on the couch, a book resting on his chest, glasses tilted slightly. Just like always, I opened my laptop, stared at the blank document, and typed, "To the man I once married." I paused. That phrase alone felt like a lifetime. You once told me I was lucky you stayed, that no one else would want me, that I was too soft, too messy, too ordinary to ever be enough. For years I believed you. I shrank myself to fit the version of me you preferred, smaller, quieter, compliant. I walked on eggshells so often, I forgot how solid ground was supposed to feel. But here's what you never realized. Every insult, every bruise, physical or otherwise, wasn't proof of your power. It was proof of your fear. Fear of being exposed, fear that my strength didn't come from control, but from choosing love anyway, even when it hurt. Fear that deep down I was never yours to keep, because I had a fire you couldn't dim, only delay. You were afraid of a woman who could still hope, still mother, still laugh, even in your shadow. You didn't break me, you bent me, you twisted my reflection, but you never erased me. And the moment I walked away, I remembered. I remembered the girl who loved books and dreamed of being a teacher. I remembered the mother who sang lullabies even with a broken heart. I remembered the woman who once stood in a hospital hallway and promised her baby she'd always be safe. You tried to convince me I was worthless. But today I woke up to Ava's giggle, Jack's arms around my waist, Ivy's drawing of a brave mommy on the fridge. Today I walked into a classroom and met 5 children who've lived through storms. Children who looked at me and saw someone who gets it. Someone who stayed. And I looked at them and saw myself. Not the broken version, but the resilient one. The one who stood up, who reached back, who taught by surviving. And today, a man who never raised his voice, who never asked me to shrink, brought me coffee just the way I like it, and kissed my cheek like it was the most natural thing in the world. You don't get to call that luck. You don't get to call this regret. You don't get to come back. I printed the letter, folded it, slid it into an envelope. Then I walked to the fireplace and watched the flame take it. Slow, deliberate, final. I didn't need to send it, because the power was never in the words, it was in writing them, in choosing to let go. Leo stirred on the couch, blinked awake, and smiled at me with that quiet knowing he always had. "You okay?" he asked. I nodded. "Yeah, I just needed to finish something." He reached out his hand. I took it. Outside, the rain had stopped. The moonlight spilled across the floor, silver and soft. And for the first time in forever, I didn't feel haunted. I felt free. So the story is over, our wonderful friends. Are you still here at this hour? If you are, then maybe something in this story touched your heart, softly, deeply, in that place we don't often talk about. Let's just sit here for a moment, together, and look at what this story teaches us, not as characters, not even as readers, but as human beings. This is not just a tale about escaping abuse. It's a journey from silence to strength, from invisibility to identity. It reminds us that pain, even when buried beneath layers of years and responsibilities, still asks to be seen. And more importantly, it reminds us that healing is not just possible, it's powerful. There's a quote by Rupi Kaur that comes to mind. "What is stronger than the human heart which shatters over and over and still lives?" This story is proof of that. Marley didn't just survive, she rebuilt. Not perfectly, not quickly, but wholly, authentically. And in doing so, she taught her children not just to be safe, but to be brave. So if you're sitting there wondering if your story matters, if it's too late to rewrite your ending, it's not. It never is. You are not defined by what broke you. You are defined by the moment you decided to rise. And if this story held your hand tonight, if it made you breathe a little deeper or feel a little less alone, then please, like, share, and subscribe. Not just for us, but for someone else who might be quietly needing this too. Your share could be the reason someone feels seen for the first time. We'll be here, telling stories that matter, healing together. Until next time, take care of your heart. It's been through a lot, and still, it beats with purpose.